It's a Sunday morning, the 14th of April, and I'm walking towards the escarpment of the Yorkshire Wolds near Bishop Wilton in the East Riding of Yorkshire. A little to the south of Garraby Hill, where the scarp reaches its highest point at over 800 feet, through the flat glacial deposit of the fringe of the Vale of York, gently rising to meet the bank beyond a series of rural scarp foot villages such as Yapham. St Martin's Church in Yapham, 2 miles north of Pocklington, is the smallest building in the surrounding village, minuscule in comparison to the 19th century farmhouses and modern agricultural buildings, and hundreds of years older. In the late 19th century, the church was dedicated to St Nicholas, but as you can see several decades later, it was presumably rededicated to St Martin. The church is a simple building with 12th century origins, built firstly in medieval sandstone, some more neatly worked into ashlar blocks. Later alterations to the fabric happened in around 1778, and the south elevation shows plenty of 18th and 19th century brick repair. Much of this has been rendered in more recent years gone by. We'll return to the exterior in a minute, but first let's head into the church. The nave and chancel are under one roof, shaped like an upturned dinghy. In 1962, a faculty was granted for the redecoration of the interior, including the ceiling consisting of 2 coats of oil paint. The old material was to be stripped from the interior walls and 1 oil-sealed coat and 2 coats of white emulsion to finish. For the woodwork, the pews and the pulpit and so on, they were to be cleaned down and given 1 undercoat and a top coat of blue gloss paint, tint as chosen. Restoration work had been carried out on and off from around 1902 when the church was re-roofed, not for the first time since. A new heating system was installed back in 1929, and the west end of the nave screened off to form a vestry in or around 1934. St Martin's Church was first listed in 1967, only a few years after the building had in many ways already transformed quite severely. The font is 12th century and stands on a large reused millstone. The font cover, by ecclesiastical architect George Pace and introduced in 1961. The pews are probably 18th and 19th century, reusing panelling in places perhaps from simple earlier box pews, of which the pulpit suspiciously resembles. It is with a heavy heart that I return each year, as I have done for over a decade, to see the condition of this building slowly deteriorate. Structural movement appears to have been present for many years. In July 2022, the east window stained glass, a good example of work by the Lancaster firm Shrigley & Hunt from 1911, was still in situ. Interior movement was being monitored and supports erected around the northeast corner of the chancel. The parish magazine at the time reported on church repairs. Hopefully the east window will soon be removed before it falls out. This will mean that for a while there will be a cardboard cutout in its place. In 2024, the glass in the east window had at some point been removed for safekeeping, though the cardboard cutout is nowhere to be seen, probably rightly so. It looks as though movement is continuing to be monitored at the east end, and those involved are looking ahead towards removing the exterior render. The estimated cost for repair is around £110,000. This is reported to cover replacing the north roof, removing or replacing the exterior render, repairing the buttresses and the bell coat, repoint the stonework and make the church fully accessible. There is also reported to be a substantial redecoration and renewal of much of the interior setting. Before I left, I thought I would do a quick sketch of the church's south elevation before continuing my walk towards the Wold Escarpment. I finished this with watercolours when I got home. I hope one day to see St Martin's Church lovingly restored and renewed. Despite all its faults, the church remains open for visitors, and for this I'm so glad, because it's the perfect rambler's church, and this is how I explored these scarp-foot villages. A milestone for the modern tramper. If you come out this way on your travels, do stop by to see the unexpected blue church.